Good evening, brothers and sisters. Thanks for joining us for this town hall and bargaining update and question and answer session. To my right, we have Carrie Dahl, Rene Perez, Randy Brassell. To my left, we have Peter Kennedy and Dave Joynt. And of course, I'm Freddie Simpson. We're going to go through the bargaining update, and then we'll get into questions and answers and a sum up shortly after that. So, Peter, please update us on the bargaining.
Before we get into the April 6th bargaining update, I want to touch base on some and provide clarification about some myths that have been circulating around on the property. The railroads have been producing all kinds of propaganda on their web portals that employees and members have been seeing routinely. And so we thought that it'd be important to address these issues and that way folks are on the up and up with this. Particularly what they're talking about is how you're overpaid because the last two contracts, their financial health of the railroad industry as a whole is dire, and that your health care benefits are above and beyond what you deserve, and that compared to other industries. And so we kind of want to touch base on that. That way everyone is well informed and not buying into the garbage that the railroads are circulating. And so first we'll touch base on wages. The railroads have said that the last two contracts, wages outpaced inflation exponentially, and that your wages are higher than average in the railroad industry. And this is actually a very disingenuous way to try and make railroads, or to try and spin that. Over the last 10 years, real wages have increased, but only at about 7.4%. What has happened is the last two rounds we made up for losses during PEB 211 and PEB 219. An era which railroad workers took a beating. The truth is, at the end of the day, though, over the course of 40 years, railroad workers are stuck at the same level of wages that they've been at. So, in other words, what a guy was making when he hired on 40 years ago is essentially the same level of standard of living as what he's making now. And so, the other issue is wages are higher than average. Well, this is a function of the industry. Skilled labor in the railroad industry is a necessity in order for the railroads to run. Railroad industry is not like retail where it's dominated by unskilled labor. And so it's just a natural occurring function in the industry. You're not above industry norms. So our proposal at the end of the day is a 3.3% net wage increase per year. Real wages after our plan design changes as the February 27th proposal that we put in place that's after real wages, after plan design changes that are taken in place. So the railroads are saying you deserve only a 1.5% wage increase. And so our position at the end of the day is reasonable and within the industry norms. The railroads are just clearly out of industry norms. The financial and health of the railroad industry is another issue that's been raised. The railroads have talked about the prolonged recession and how it's impacted their financial performance, particularly focusing on car loadings being down over the past few years. And they've talked a lot about coal as well. Total car loadings are actually up from 2016 compared to 2017, and coal is actually up 20% in that same time period. So if you look at this, they're actually doing really well in regards to car loadings. Their operating ratio, profits and shareholder return is another place that you have to look. You can't just focus on car loads. And so when you look at their operating ratio, the composite of the big four rail industry is, in 2005 was about 80.9%, in 2010 it was 71.8%, and in 2016 it's 66.1%. That lower number actually is good for the railroad industry. So in other words, they're doing better than they've done in the past 10 years, and actually they're doing better than they've ever done in railroad history. When you look at profits, the big four, in 2005 they made $4.9 billion, and now in 2016 they made $11.9 billion. So when you look at profits, they're doing way better than they have in the past 10 years and in railroad history. How did they accomplish this? Well, quite frankly, they did this through workers. They furloughed their employees to adjust to demands in the industry, in order to continue to generate profits and maintain low operating ratios and high profits. You look at shareholder return. Despite their challenges, they've done a fantastic job of protecting their shareholders. As profits increased, they also started to reinvest that money in their stock repurchase programs. The big three over the past 10 years have dumped over $30 billion in their stock repurchase program. And their earnings per shares, when you look at that, they've gone up exponentially, which also drives up stock prices. And so the total shareholder return is up over 271% between 2004 and 2015. So in other words, railroads are making profits, they're outperforming the markets, and their shareholders are doing very well. So there's no dire financial straits for them right now. The next thing that's been circulating is in regards to your health care benefits. Like I said, benefits are better than the average worker, including Walmart employees, and you should pay more, and quite frankly, it's garbage. They've also talked about the Affordable Care Act driving up costs under the national plan, and again, that's garbage as well. The truth is that the Affordable Care Act did cause changes to the plan that cost the plan a good amount of money, but 80% of that change, or that expense incurred under the plan, actually went to your dependents, your children under age 26, as well as preventative care changes that were outside of cost sharing. So in other words, even though these costs did incur to the plan, members under the plan and their dependents directly benefited from this. And at the end of the day, it really had no impact on the plan or the railroads to the extent that they're crying, because the plan is very well managed. If you look back historically, benefits have been provided for railroad employees at a cost that's very minimal to the railroads, and it's actually, I think what it comes out to be is less than 0.15 of a cent per ton mile when you actually sit down and look at it. So it's very affordable. It's not to the extent that the railroads are going around and telling all of our members, and quite frankly, there's no need for these major plan design changes that they're trying to push under the guise of expense. PEB 243, the changes that they pushed upon us was about $90 million per year in savings to the plan. Our proposal this time around is about $130 million in annual savings, and it reduces costs to the plan without shifting that onto our members' backs. In other words, the last round, members had to pay. This round, we're saying the members won't have to pay. It's an administrative rebid of the plan, which drives competitiveness into the plan and would save several hundred millions of dollars over the course of the contract. And the members aren't going to be stuck with it this time. So that's kind of a rundown of some of the myths and things that were going out around on the tracks, and we want to provide clarification on that, so that way folks are not in the dark on this, and that they're not taking everything that the railroad is putting out in their propaganda. So to give a bargaining update, recall that the last session we had was on March 14th, and the railroads gave us their reasons for maintaining their backward position that they presented to us on February 27th. And so our next session that we scheduled, which was held last week, was April 6th. And at that point in time, not much was mentioned of the March 15th discussion, but the railroads did commit to meeting with us for another couple mediation sessions on June 20th and 21st. At the same time, the railroads advised us that they're going to be meeting with the coordinated bargaining group for 4 sessions from now until June, when our sessions are going to be scheduled. And while we're hopeful that the coordinated bargaining group will reach a respectable agreement, we're not optimistic, and there's a couple reasons why. The first reason is because the railroads have yet to respond seriously to our February proposal that we made to them. The second reason is the railroads have previously raised concerns about the freshness of data with our analysis on the network rebid. And so when they raised that issue about 6 months ago, we made a request for up-to-date data so that we could address those concerns and continue to refine that proposal. Unfortunately, however, we haven't received that updated data. So it's kind of difficult to imagine how the NCCC could substantively bargain with other coalitions without that data when they raised that concern to begin with, when we're still waiting on that data, the most up-to-date data. So this complicates the level of discussions at a minimum. And so with that said, we're still waiting on our data. We're starting to get it in. Some of it's incomplete, some of it's not entirely accurate. We're tweaking that right now. But the upshot of this is that we are scheduled to meet again on June 20th and 21st, so we are not at an impasse. We're simply waiting for a serious response for our February proposal, but between now and then we will continue to refine what we have to make sure our analysis is correct.
So, very good job, Peter, with the update, and just to make certain Brother Joynt was listening as well as I didn't hear any miscues. Dave, do you have anything to add to the bargaining update?
The only thing I'd add is both through the bargaining update and his discussion about the carrier's misinformation is, just want to be clear that with the carrier's last proposal, that the rail workers would be worse off at the end of this when it comes to real wages than we were 40 years ago. So obviously their last proposal is a non-starter for us. And then also, as we talked about the health of the rail industry, by all reasonable measures, the railroads are doing well. And the last two agreements we made that they have been making so much about that they felt they gave us too large of general wage increases. The facts show that it did nothing to impede their improving financial status over the last, 8, 10 years, 12 years. So with that, that's the only thing I wanted to add, is that they're doing well, and all the facts point to that.
To sum it up, our bargaining coalition, nor either of the other two bargaining coalitions, I don't think any of us have received a respectable proposal. I don't think any other craft is buying this line of lowering expectations for their members. We certainly hope that you don't buy the railroad story to lower your expectations. Our members deserve a better deal than what the railroads are offering. They don't deserve for their pay to be frozen or to be working for less money in the end than what the cost of living is. So we just need for you to stay strong, stay active, stay engaged with us, and make sure that you don't buy the railroad's line that they're poor mouthing and not making enough money. The greedy pricks, that's all you can say about their proposals. They want railroad workers to suffer the problems of globalization that's happened for 40 years in other industries. And we simply deserve more than we're getting. We're going to get it, and they know that. But unless we have the membership supporting us in all crafts, then we will get nowhere. So stay with us, stay strong, and be sure not to buy the story that your expectations should be lowered. I think that concludes the bargaining update. We will go into kind of a town hall thing here and do a question and answer session.
Brothers and sisters, this is Kerry Dahl again. I'm the internal organizing coordinator for the Brotherhood. This afternoon I sent out a text and email asking everybody to send in questions that they had about national negotiations. And today, in addition to having our leadership and our bargaining committee with us, we also have a couple of frontline communicators and a vice chairman from the Unified System Division. Just in from the job is Anthony Crockett, works down at the rail plant at Radnor Yard on CSX here in Nashville, just arrived. And so President Simpson is going to allow these brothers to ask questions that they hear on the job, as well as we printed out dozens of questions that came in, many of which were similar. A lot of folks asked the same questions, and so we're going to do our best to get some answers to you. Brother Simpson.
Okay. Brother Crockett, we'll start with you. Do you have a question for the panel?
The most important question that I would say would be, when is this all going to be over?
Well, that question, and let me find someone else answered, and that's yours, isn't it, Dave?
Yep.
Okay.
We also had a question from Leslie Gomez, Lodge 1048, that said, how much longer until we have a contract? Are there any time frames for any of this? So it goes right along with what you're asking. And unfortunately, since the railroad has requested mediation, we're under the guidance of the National Mediation Board. They do set our schedule. They set the meetings. They tell us when we're going to meet. And we can't move on to the next step until they release us from the mediation process. So unfortunately, we can't say or how long exactly it's going to take. We don't really know because we don't have all the control over that. All we can say is that we're going to be at the table bargaining hard, trying to reach a fair agreement. And at this point, we're not at at the point where we're should be released. We think we still got a lot of bargaining to do. We expect the railroads to step up and make a fair deal. But as far as the timeline, we really can't say for sure when it's going to end. We don't control that at this point.
Brother Rene.
A lot of our brothers and sisters are asking, what are the Teamsters doing to help us on negotiations?
Well, that question was also asked, and let me find it here, who asked the question. David Johnson from Lodge 1112 asked the same question. The Teamsters have guaranteed support politically, legislatively, financially, and any research and development we need, along with assuring that the 1.4 million Teamsters are behind railroad unions in their bargaining, the same kind of support level you get from any solidarity in a union, and they will give any support that we ask for. Today, we've more or less, the two divisions in the Teamsters have control over their bargaining for the merger agreements, and we've, other than research and development or those kind of things, we haven't asked a lot for the Teamsters. But in the end, if we need people walking Capitol Hill to support us, the Teamsters will provide all of that and more. If we need financial resources, they do that. And so they support us in any way we ask them, with tremendous help and tremendous clout in DC. Brother Randy.
Yeah, one of the questions that I have is specifically vacation and sick time. What's the priority of that, along with health care and wage increases?
I think we have a similar question for Peter.
Brother John Bean from Lodge 1137 asked a question about are the 3 points at negotiation, healthcare costs, pay raises, and sick days. And then we also have another brother, Michael Baver, Lodge 90. What are the chances of us getting more paid time off through sick time or personal days, or just more vacation time? And so really the sticking points are healthcare costs and pay raises. As we talked about in the bargaining update and prior bargaining updates online, the railroads are saying we're overpaid, and that your healthcare benefits are too good. So those are the two main sticking points that we have to work through. In regards to paid time off and sick time off, well, that's still a form of compensation, a form of wages. So we're obviously going to have to negotiate through that too. But everything in our proposal, which included vacation day, improvement to the vacation agreement, is of high priority.
So I'll ask a question from the list sent to Carrie by text or email. I'm going to start at the top. Brother Shane Airy of Lodge 407 asked, is our health care going to stay the same? And Peter is going to answer that.
So at the end of the day, we don't expect our benefits to change a lot, but it's likely there will be some changes. So that's about the extent of what we can answer on that, because we're still very early into this process.
Brother Crockett, it's your turn to ask a question.
To what you were saying about changes in the insurance. I have 4 kids. A lot of the guys at the plant have kids. So what can we look for as far as changes? Are you able to give us details about the changes in insurance that may affect us, Because, prescription costs are going up. We're gonna have to pay more for prescriptions, or is it too early to tell?
Well, at the end of the day, it's too early to tell. Our intention was to hold the line, and then we attempted to reach a fair and reasonable settlement or voluntary agreement through our most recent proposal, and the railroads continue to say no. They actually want a very radical design change, even steeper than the last round. And so their intent is to make members pay more, members and their families pay more, whether it's prescription drugs, whether it's a hospital visit, an emergency room visit. That's not our intention. Our intention is to protect and preserve the amount of benefits that you currently have through all means possible. So at the end of the day, what will happen, we don't know, because we're still in the bargaining, we're still engaged in negotiations, but our intent is to try and keep those, any changes as minimal as possible.
What I can assure the membership is we will get a fair deal on health care. The benefits levels, we intend to hold the line as far as the benefit levels. We have offered the carriers to bargain over marginal things and a way to rebid the plan where it doesn't come out of the member's pocket, it doesn't come out of the carrier's pocket. And it's simply, for the most part, administrative. There may be tweaks, but benefit levels and benefits to children and spouses, I don't see any change in the benefit levels. How those are administered may change to some degree to try to do a savings in the plan. Brother Randy.
Question is, back pay. That's something we've gotten the last couple of agreements that I've been on the railroad, and we're hearing now that railroads don't want to pay back pay. How do you guys feel about that?
We also have a back pay question on the list.
That's mine.
Okay.
Yeah, you also Dustin Jones from Lodge 1533 and Russell Davis from Lodge 2286. Are we going to get back pay and are we going to get a pay raise and back pay too? Is their question. Certainly, the with back pay is normal in the industry for our contracts. The last proposal the carrier gave us eliminated any back pay, and quite frankly, it's that's not acceptable to us. We continue to bargain. We fully intend to negotiate to get back pay along with the general wage increases that are real wage increases. But as of right now, the railroads in their proposal that went backwards in March when we met, they took any back pay off the table, and so we have a long way to go, but we still are negotiating, and we don't plan on voluntarily agreeing to any agreement without back pay.
So the next question comes from the list. It's from James Burleson of Lodge 558. What's up with the new CSX attendance policy for maintenance away? I can tell you that's a local issue. Should be answered by your general chairman or vice chairman. You should call them and engage in a conversation with them. The national division and the vice presidents and all the officers at the national division will support the officers of CSX in whatever is needed to fight these new policy changes. Railroads, not just CSX, but any railroad, because when one does something, we found that they all start pretty soon thereafter with the same kind of draconian policy. So get in touch with your local officers, and we will be supporting them in whatever action they take on that policy. Okay, so Rene, you have a question?
Yes, how much more is the carrier wanting us to pay for health care?
So the carriers are proposing a plan design change that would cost the average participant approximately $206 more per month. So over $2,400 more per year coming out of each railroad worker's pocket.
Randy, you have another question?
Yeah, last time the agreement, we're dependent on all the other craft unions to work with us on this, and the whole weak link statement. How are we working with the other unions right now to make this thing happen? Or how are they working with us?
I can tell you that we do our best to coordinate with the two other bargaining coalitions. The TCU coalition is more or less aligned with our proposals and our agreement, and our coalition and TCU group could, if the railroads would accept our last offer, would be almost identical. The CDGC, which is the engineers, UTU, the signalmen, and firemen and oilers, they haven't had as many sessions in mediation as we have, and they're still developing their positions, as far as I know. But I can tell you, rail unions will stand together, and I can also tell you, I don't think that any of us have gotten close to where we would accept the cheap deal these carriers are trying to put across the table. One more question from the list. So Ron Ferrer of Lodge 662 asked the question, did the meeting the carriers that end abruptly like it typically does? Peter, that's your question.
Well, as I gave in the prior update just a little bit ago, it didn't end abruptly, but it certainly went a little bit different than we anticipated because they still haven't answered seriously our prior proposal back in February. And they did advise, though, like I said, that we're going to conduct mediation sessions in June of this year. So we're still going to be at the table with them, which indicates that they're still serious about reaching an agreement to the extent that that they're prepared to discuss our proposal at the next session.
Brother Anthony, you have the last question.
Yes, sir. As frontline communicators, we go out and we talk to different people from different crafts. What can we do as a unit, as a whole, to show the companies that we mean that we don't want to budge on our health care? We want good health care. We just don't want to be streamlined. What can we do as a unit?
That's a great question, brother, and what I always tell our members anytime I speak, or officers that I speak to, is we have a lot to do as a union. We have in this country, the union density in the workforce is just constantly shrinking. It's down to very minimal numbers now. Union households are nowhere near where they were 30 years ago. So we have to do more with fewer, and that's part of the reason we started the Frontline Communicators and the CAP program, is to try to engage our members and all rail workers in a solidarity effort, not only to improve working conditions and pay and benefits on the railroad, but to try to improve this country and the communities we live in. So what our members can do and what the Frontline Communicators can do is stay engaged with us, stay engaged with the process, attend their local lodge meetings. If they have questions, pick up the phone and call someone, express your views, and by all means, talk to other railroad workers on the job site, form solidarity charters, whatever you can do to enhance the solidarity of railroad workers on the property is what I encourage folks to do. That leads us into May 3rd. We're going to do some rallies around the country, some informational rallies among railroad workers. Actually, we may expand and hope to expand into the communities in a way that lets the railroads know and the communities know that railroad workers are standing united together. They're going to fight for decent pay and benefits for their own jobs, and they're also going to fight for their communities, their churches, whatever they engage in. They're going to fight for a better way of life in this country, because all of us know, and what's happened for the last 30 years is we've moved away from, in my view, working together to build a good community to live in, a good country to live in, and a good workplace for people. We've been marginalized by an effort to encourage people to engage in their own selfish individual rights. And while selfish individual rights, or I shouldn't say selfish, while individual rights are very important to all of us in this country, it's what the backbone of this democracy. In my view, collective rights may be, at this time in history, more important than individual rights, because if they take our collective rights, the next thing behind that are your individual rights. And if we can't unite, organize, freely mingle in public and express our views and do those things that workers do together to improve their communities and their union and their nation, then we will be no better than a dictatorship with folks harassing and putting workers in a place that we certainly don't want to go back. Today, I think we've gotten to the point that rail unions, railroads, you just need to look around in the community, and you find in every industry there's 3 or 4 big corporate giants controlling the market as far as healthcare, oil production, gas production, rail industry. There's 4 big ones left in this country with the 2 Canadian railroads that are of some size, some substance, but we're going backwards to the late 1800s, early 1900s with the robber barons of those days and the clout that they have, and they're buying this country one piece at a time, and unfortunately, in my view, we have a lot of members and citizens buying that line. So if we don't all take every chance we have to work and support one another, it's going away. It's eroding. I just hope we're not too late. I hope that we can encourage our members to get out, to support one another, support the other rail unions and other railroad workers, because these greedy folks aren't going to just lay down. They think it's their time. They think it's time to take us out. And if we let them, then woe be it on us. We've got a challenge. So anything you can do to take some time to commingle with other workers and attend rallies, encourage all the members to get out and voice their opinions.
So on May the 3rd, that is a Wednesday, we are going to be having actions before work, rallies, where we are bringing all of the coworkers that we have at any facility, any work site across the country. We also want to be inviting and reaching out to brothers and sisters from other crafts and asking them to join us. So even if it's a small group, less than 10 people, the idea is that in hundreds of places across the country, if we can show the railroads that we're finding ways to find each other and have conversations about the next steps to protect our health care and the future of our families, then that will go a long way to empower our bargaining committee at the table to win justice for us on health care and other issues related to national bargaining. So, if you're a frontline communicator out there, please reach out to your internal organizer. They're going to be reaching out to you. You can also reach out to your system officers. They're going to be full of information about what we're doing on May the 3rd. And you can always reach out to me directly. My phone number is 248-986-6095. And we look forward to hearing from you about how you're going to build a pre-work rally on May the 3rd.